Hi, just a quick demo of how to use eodhistorical.com's API to get some fundamental data for equity and bonds. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, just came up in a discussion. I promised I'd show a quick demo of it. So this is presented without warranty, and I'll provide a link to the code in the description below, so there's no need to copy along or anything like that. First of all, though, I am going to go straight into a demo of what you can do with it, and then we'll worry about the code later because it's not really all that exciting or important. But I like to use Google Colab. I like to use it to iterate and just test out ideas very quickly and dismiss them, as well as then if I want to take it further, I might go and develop the code in an IDE in a bit more of a integrated fashion, more application-focused fashion. But anyway, just for quickly looking up stuff like this is just great. You can download this code and run it as Python code, though, if you wanted to. So just by going to File Download, you download as what they call IronPython, which is what this notebook format is, or just download as a normal Python code and run it locally on your computer. But again, presented as is, no warranties, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to obviously show my key in the version. You'll have to provide your own. But let's go quickly through inequity examples. So first of all, I'm going to get a list of tickers that we're interested in. Harley Davidson, Apple, etc., Walmart. I provide the start and interval. We're only going to use those for pricing data, which I've got a function for there, so you can just, for completeness, you can mess around with that on your own time. And then we create a dictionary, and we call a function I wrote called read fundamentals. What that does, though, is it caches the fundamental data locally to disk, so you can run the code over and over again without getting a penalty for using the API too much. So I'll get into that in a bit, but the important thing to note, this is running up in the cloud. So if you run it here, the files are only there for the life of this session. So if you shut the session down, the files won't be there anymore. I'll show you all that. Might as well show you that now since I've mentioned it, and we'll get it out of the way. So I use the existing sample data folder just to make it easy. And here you can see I've FD and the ticker, fundamental data, ticker, bond fundamental data, and the CUSIP. So there you go. I just cache them there locally, but that's after you run these functions. They're not there automatically, obviously. So we'll run those just to show you how quick it is to run. So that's how fast it is to run once you've cached them, which is the reason why you do it. So for exploring, let's have a look at Walmart. So just put Walmart into its own little variable and have a look at the keys for it. So we can pull down general information. It has information about where it's located, etc., what industry it's in. Some highlights, valuation. We're going to look at the financial stuff today. So by looking at financials, its keys, you can see there's a balance sheet, cash flow and income statement, Holy Trinity. Looking at the balance sheet, you can get the currency symbol it's denominated in and whether you want the quarterly or yearly time frames. So looking at the quarterly time frame, we can see now we have a time series for the balance sheet. So if looking at all the quarterlies over these time periods, this little guitar lick here says, take all the keys that we just looked at, right? All this, convert to a list, and grab the first one, which is that one. So our most recent key is going to be this one up here, and then we can have a look at what sort of things are in the quarterly report for the balance sheet, and the sort of things you'd expect: other liabilities, capital stock, long-term investments, right? So here I just wrote a quick little function that does some processing of the balance sheet. And so the sorts of things that it would be looking for, say if you were looking to do, say, an enterprise value calculation, right? So here. So this is going to take for Walmart and dump out for each of the quarterlies, what the filing date was, because it's going to be different, the common stock outstanding. Don't worry about the notation here. I'm just too lazy to convert it, but it all checks out, trust me. We can see the capital lease obligation, long-term debt, short-term debt, cash debt, cash equivalents, and cash as well. That's something we'll need to talk about because sometimes these can be different. So you just check both and take the max. And let's have a look at the bonds. So similar idea, we're going to create a dictionary for the CUSIPs or QSIPs, however you pronounce it, that it knows about. And just for point of order, EOD Historical doesn't have a encyclopedic list of QSIPs in their database, but they are very, very good at going and getting new QSIPs when you say, hey, this one's missing. Really, really great support. I've nothing but great things to say about EOD Historical's support. So there you go. Good job. Okay, so now we can have a look at what sort of data we can get from the bond stuff when they exist. Okay, I think this is much easier to see if you just dump one of these because it's not as full on as the other example. And so here you can see we have a Citigroup 8 8/7 yield bond, but it's actually saying it's preferred stock, right? So now you can see that under the classification data and a few other little bits and details, right, that we would find interesting for populating a spreadsheet if you don't have access to Bloomberg. Now to talk a little bit about the code, such that it is. So here in your version, should take a copy of it. You have to put in your key. Again, go to eodhistorical.com. I think they have a sample key with sample data, so you just modify the examples I provide in the earlier section. For Apple, I think is one of the examples they give you. But here's the functions, such as they are. First thing it'll do is read fundamentals. It'll look for in this file path over here, does the file exist for that ticker? If it does, just use it. Right? So local cache. If it doesn't exist, then go call the EOD historical functions that I wrote. Same for the fundamentals, with the QSIP, and you can do the same with prices. So here are the simple endpoints. So all I do is basically just take the endpoints for the bond fundamentals. You supply the QSIP and your key. Same with the normal equity ones, your symbol and the key. And the prices, this is where the start interval from the previous section comes into play. Interestingly, you can also do a screener, and they have a lot better examples on the things you can screen on. I'm sure they keep adding functionality. But anyway, that's the code presented as is, just a plaything. There you go.